14 trips a week, right? 10 of them you're just trying to get to work, right? I mean, the remaining 4 you might be trying to go to a mall, try and visit your mom, but when you try to get to work, right, you want predictability, right? I mean, that is not the time that you want to struggle, right? So that appeared to be a real problem statement. So now how do we solve for that, right? Hi, I'm Surajit Das, CEO of Routematic. Welcome to Backstage with Millionaires. Today I'm going to be talking about my journey as an entrepreneur and my experiences in building out Routematic, India's premier office commute platform. I have this theory that Bombay is, or you call it Mumbai now, right? Mumbai is where entrepreneurs are born, right? And Bangalore is where entrepreneurs are bred, right? So, I've spent substantial years of my life, growing up years in Bombay. It's a city which teaches you to hustle, right? It's a city which gives you great life experiences, right? So growing up years in Bombay, when I look back today, I can connect the dots in terms of getting things done, right? That is what growing up in Bombay taught me, right? Schooling in Bombay, did my engineering there, and then came down to Bangalore to pursue my post graduation, and then started my career in Bangalore, right? That was my step into the IT industry. I started my career with GE Medical Systems, right? Very fortunate to start off with a product company, considering that India was a services economy, right? And product companies, the DNA is very different, right? So when I started my career with GE, right, I'm green behind the years, but great learning experience. And the best part of that experience was that this is way back in 2001, 2002, right? At that point in time, if you look at what India was, right, the economy was just opening up. People did not really talk a lot about startups, right? The big companies to look up to where Infosys had kind of graduated from being a startup, but again it was like a services company, right? So from the great thing about my stint at GE was that I got a chance to travel to the US and work out of GE Milwaukee for some time. And like I said, right, life experiences really make what you are, right? And especially when you're trying to start up later on in life. So while the stint itself in GE was really good, I think what really moved it for me was the life experiences in the US, right? Traveling around the US, just seeing the level at which technology was in the US and how it was easing life for people, right? And this is, I'm talking about almost 15, 16 years back, right? Even then, right, we could see this difference, right? You take someone from India, put them in the US, you look at the infrastructure, you look at mobility networks at that point in time, right? Phenomenal, right? And there were a lot of companies that used to come up in the news, right? You had Netscape, you had Google was coming up, right? And those were being in the middle of all of that, right? Gave me a very different perspective. So this was my first introduction to what startups really mean for any economy or any society, right? I continued with GE for some time and then moved to Wipro around 2005 odd. And again, very fortunate enough at that point in time that there was this small startup called Ava Stream, which was funded by Dr. Hussain Islam Bolchi, right? He is ex-CTO of AT&T. And they had kind of asked Wipro to help them with their product development and serendipity, as you call it. I was kind of leading that from Wipro's side, right? So I was in the Bay Area suddenly, all of a sudden, right, and working in this startup, right? There's a funded startup. This is the first time I realized that, okay, you have something called funding that startups can actually go for, right? And you have investors who go into these companies, and you can build digital age startups, right? This was a media streaming startup, right? And the business model around media streaming startup, I was so fascinated by this entire thing, the entire product development part of it, and how they decide what they're going to build, right? And the fact that you can actually build something which might not give you a direct revenue right now, but you can look at ancillary revenues to build it on initially, right? So these were very alien concepts to me at that point in time, but as I spent more and more time with this particular company, right, trying to help them meet their product timelines, right, and getting involved in all their discussions in their meeting, right, it was a phenomenal experience for me, right? And that is, I think at that point in time, that particular engagement with this particular startup, right, is when it really pushed me across the line, if I were to say so, that I need to do something like this on my own, right. I could see a need in the country at that point in time, because India did not have any structured financial digital service, right, a digital financial service that could really disseminate all kinds of information. There was a lot of information asymmetry in the financial services market. So that is what I thought I'd try my hand at. And the good thing is that I had some, and because I have a tech background, right, I had some colleagues from back in my engineering days. We kind of got together, did a quick prototype, launched it to the market. So this was the first time I was personally taking a product to the market, right. That is when you realize that yes, there is you need to get external funds as well, right. So we ran the product, we tried to get it to a certain point, then started reaching out to a lot of investors, right. And I think that was a very humbling experience in terms of when you go out to the market, not just talk to customers but also to investors, right. In terms of they'll really tell you, give you a reality check in terms of how much it can scale and what is right and what is wrong. And unless you've got all the answers figured out, right, it becomes very difficult for you to run something successfully, right. That conviction. So if you have all the answers figured out, what I've realized is that your conviction becomes stronger. But if you think that you don't have all the answers and you're unable to find them, that is the time when you start doubting yourself, right. So I went through this cycle. We had this concept of a great product. We thought we would go and win the world, but as we kind of progressed, we spent about a year and a half on it. We realized that scale is something that would be difficult to achieve, right. And this is I'm very thankful to a lot of investors that I spoke to who gave me this particular feedback, right. And around 2015 is when we decided that I would kind of look at a different opportunity, because it was not worth continuing on it if you are not able to achieve a certain scale, right. So at that point in time, I was in conversation with Bloom Ventures Karthik Reddy, right. And Karthik Reddy has been an amazing friend to me over the years. And I was in conversation with him, and he was at that point in time just putting in his first check into Nevada, which is the name of the company, right. And that is how Karthik suggested, why don't I go and have a chat with Sriram. And Sriram was the founder, right. And I got talking. We kind of it was like a good 3-4 month dating period. We used to meet and discuss and understand what he was trying to do. And he had this piece of technology. He comes from a hardcore tech background. He had this piece of technology. So when we started discussing it, we talked about multiple applications of this particular technology, right. And the ability to track even when if you don't have GPS, the ability to route, right. These were the technology pieces that he had. And we kind of discussed a little bit on mobile workforce, right, how it could be useful there. We also talked about transportation, right. And if I were to connect the dots back, right, transportation is something which was very interesting for me, and also for Sriram to a large extent, right, because we had seen how easy mobility is outside of India, right, especially in the US, right, and the struggles in India, right. And we really wanted to solve on that problem. And I think both Sriram and I hit it off when we said that, hey, we want to do something in transportation, right. But like I said, at that point in time, Ola was already there. It had kind of become a success story, and Uber, right. I mean, there's this huge startup, successful startup in the US which just starts entering India and comes with this black car. So that you're not going to go and fight this and go in the B2C route, right. So when we thought about what else we could do in transportation, and we looked at multiple options, whether you could do the bigger segment vehicles, planned routes, buses. But one thing that when we spoke to a lot of people, right, the real pain point was commuting. That is from home to work and from work to back, from work coming back home, right. That was a real problem, because think of it this way, right. 14 trips a week. Right, 10 of them you're just trying to get to work, right. I mean, the remaining 4 you might be trying to go to a mall, try and visit your mom. But when you try to get to work, right, you want predictability, right. I mean, that is not the time that you want to struggle, right. So That appeared to be a real problem statement. So now how do we solve for that, right? We in India, there's this and this might be an alien concept outside of India, right? But in India, what happens is that companies actually arrange for transport for their employees. It's an employee benefit program. So what it means is that every organization has a small transport department, right? They're planning the entire transport network for their organization, right? So what it essentially means is that, and people with a tech background will understand this, right? It is essentially a company arranged ride sharing platform, ride sharing ecosystem, right, which requires a lot of planning, and there was a huge need for technology there. So that gave us the opportunity that if you want to work in transportation, you have routing as a piece of technology, right? What you can build is a product around corporate transportation, right? Commute. So we started off with Routematic as a technology product that we would offer to the enterprise, right, to plan and manage their entire transport operation, right? It's fairly complex technology, right? I mean, in computing terms, we call it a bin packing problem. It's an NP hard problem, right? And I come from a tech background, so it's a very interesting problems for me and Sriram, right? So while building out Routematic, right, I think my biggest learning was that identifying a particular problem statement, right, being really convinced about it, doing your research, understanding what is the real customer pain point, that is critical, right? What we typically call the product market fit, right? The next thing is, I mean, from my previous financial services venture, the scale was obviously an issue, right? That, are you going to attract money, investor money in the future? Because you need that to scale, right? So does the business become big enough and interesting enough? So when we looked at overall transportation spend, right, in India, a $15 billion market is an attractive market, right? How you grab the entire share or a significant part of that market is strategy. Right? So you have to have a clear-cut strategy. So we had kind of locked in all these three pieces, right? From a enterprise standpoint, the need to have a piece of technology which would help them manage the entire transportation, that was very much there, right? We detected that need, right? Tech was a check, the need for the customer was a check. The second thing was, how big is the market, right? The tech alone market was not big enough. But what we realized is that if the overall transportation market is about $10-15 billion, right? Once you have tech, which is the enabler, you can basically start expanding, right? Upselling and have a bigger role in that $15 billion market. So scale, we did not look at it as a problem, because we felt that at some point in time, right, we will basically control demand and then start adding in supply, right? So that piece worked out well for us. Also, what was happening at that point in time, and timing is one bit that I feel is very important, right? For example, when I look at Routematic, right, when we started working on Routematic, and over the years, right, transportation has been an area of big focus, right? It is not just entrepreneurs coming in. There's a huge government push in terms of building better transportation solutions. So it is kind of, the timing was really great. We were able to execute, not just at a very small one city level, but executed at a 8-10 city level, right? That is the kind of growth that we have had. So if you look at how the way the transportation industry is going to evolve, especially in India, right, there's a huge push from the government for cleaner vehicles, right? The old internal combustion vehicles are at some point, and while they are dominant in the market right now, I think there's enough push from the government and that we're going to see cleaner vehicles, new transportation technology coming in, and we are basically laying the pipes for all of that today, right? We start in around 2017 January is when we said that we are now going to harness the technology dividend, right? Or about 50 plus customers on our tech stack. We want to harness the technology dividend. So that is when we essentially decided that we are going to get into fulfillment, right? So it's been a journey, right? There's been a structured journey. We started around 2015, did tech till 2017, right? Acquired customers, built a moat, and then in 2017 January we started fulfilling all the trips which were being planned on our platform, right? And that really gave a huge boost to the entire company, because the moment you start fulfillment, right, your revenues like just shoot up, right? I mean, it's like rocket fuel. In the next 12 months, right, 2018 Jan till now, what has happened is that we have kind of doubled revenues, actually more than double, right, about 2.5 times, and we have made our first entry into fulfilling trips in Pune, and where we are one of the most prominent and visible, transporters, right? It's an amazing story. It's a very humbling journey for us. Anytime that I go to Pune today, right, I can see Routematic branded cabs plying in the city, right? It's one thing delivering technology to a customer and landing in a city and then seeing a Routematic branded cab just pass by, right? It's a very different experience, right? That's been the journey, right? So today we aggregate and run a fleet marketplace in Pune and in Bangalore, and we're going to we aim to be present in over in 3 more cities by the end of the year. But it's not just a fleet marketplace. We also want to build it in a sustainable manner. We're looking at build EV as a core strategy. So we are looking at building it right from the very beginning, right? So about 30% of our fleet is going to be on clean fuel, right? The electric vehicles by the end of the year, and we are building a business model which is not just dependent on CSR, right? I mean, EVs today, if I look at what other players have been doing, right? EVs are typically sustaining on CSR money, right? We are building a tech-driven model which allows EVs to run profitably even without someone subsidizing it, right? That's what we are building towards. I think the next few years are going to be even more exciting. We've just scratched the surface in terms of what we can do in transportation, and we're looking we're really excited to be where we are today, right? Part of my journey also, one of the learnings in my entire journey has been the main equity in a company is the people who work for you, right? So in some sense we've been lucky there in terms of attracting talent, right? For a small startup it becomes really difficult if you are not able to tap into a network. So that way both Sriram, who is my co-founder, and me, right, we had access to these great networks, right? Sriram on the tech side, I had access to this great network from ISB and from my engineering days and my post-graduation days. So we have massively tapped into those networks, right? And when you get people from these networks, right, what happens is they become as equally invested into the company as you are, and people who come on board really evaluate the problem, see whether it is something which interests them, because these are mind you, these are all professionals who are well settled in life and looking at something really challenging, right? And and they're not going to take a risk just for the sake of taking a risk, right? It's going to be a well thought out decision. So that is also some level of validation, right, for your own business model, right? So I think that ability to tap into the network has been a huge plus for us. So for anyone who's trying to build a company, right, I think these are the key things, right? You have to figure out that the problem is big enough to solve, right? And the second thing is that you have to figure out whether you have the ammunition to solve the problem. And when I say the ammunition to solve the problem, you cannot conquer the world on your own. You need people to come and help you out, right? I mean, having the right talent when you're starting up, that is going to be the most important thing ever, right? I mean, money comes later, right? You have to have the first set of people who will come in, buy into your vision, and then start building out with you, right? And that is something that every entrepreneur absolutely needs access to. So yeah, that was my journey from growing up in Bombay, my life experiences driving me to be an entrepreneur and building out Routematic today. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. Do share it. You can leave your comments and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, and I hope I can see you in a Routematic vehicle very soon.